He's dying, and we have no idea why. Dr. Jennifer Cole says, panic rising in her throat as she stares at the cluster of specialists. 8-year-old Luca Moretti lies unconscious in Mount Sinai's ICU, his small chest rising in erratic, shallow breaths. Heart rate 180. Temperature rising. 12 hours. No diagnosis. Vince Moretti slams his fist against the wall hard enough to shake the window. 12 hours, and you got nothing? My son dies, you all die. From the far edge of the room, a figure steps forward slowly. Elijah King, 68, pushing a mop bucket, the janitor's uniform hanging loose on his thin frame. His silver hair glints under the fluorescent lights. I know what's wrong with the boy, he says. Dr. Bradley Thorne turns, eyes full of disdain. Excuse me? The fever pattern. The rash. It's security. Thorne snaps instantly. Remove this man. A resident snickers. A nurse whispers loudly. Crazy old janitor thinks he's a doctor. Elijah lowers his gaze as 2 guards gently escort him out, his cleaning cart rattling like an accusation. The humiliation burns, but something far worse burns deeper. The certainty that the doctors are missing what's right in front of them. Mount Sinai's pediatric wing bursts with urgent chaos at 3:15 a.m. 12 specialists from the most prestigious hospitals on the East Coast crowd around Luca's charts. Their reputations trembling as the child's condition worsens by the minute. They flip through scans, blood work, and endless notes, each page confirming the same problem. They have no idea what is killing him. Dr. Bradley Thorne stands at the head of the room, like a king on a sinking throne. Harvard-educated. Perfectly pressed designer scrubs. Rolex catching every bit of light. Ladies and gentlemen, failure here is not an option. The father has connections. Everyone knows what that means. Outside the ICU doors, Vince Moretti paces like a lion deprived of prey. His $1,000 suit is wrinkled, his gold pinky ring flashing as he gestures angrily into his phone. I don't care who you wake up. Get me the best pediatric specialist alive. Now! But money can't negotiate with biology. The boy keeps getting worse. Elijah returns to his cart, hands trembling, not from age, but from a knowledge clawing at him. Intermittent fever spikes. Rash that appears and disappears. Red eyes without pus. Swollen lymph node on one side. He's seen this before. Too many times. A young resident bumps past him. Move it, old man. Another laughs. Probably thinks he understands what we're doing. Elijah doesn't respond. His stethoscope, hidden beneath cleaning rags, seems to burn against the back of his mind. He shouldn't speak up again. Not after the humiliation. Not after the guards. Not after the laughter. But Luca's pale face flashes in his mind. Inside the conference room, the specialists argue. We've ruled out infections, viral syndromes, autoimmune disorders, metabolic diseases. Dr. Thorne insists. So, what are we missing? Dr. Cole asks, voice tight with fear. No one answers. Down the hall, Elijah empties a wastebasket, but his eyes never leave the medical notes laid across the table. He sees patterns these doctors are blind to. His heart races. His pulse jumps. He whispers to himself, they're looking for textbook symptoms. A nurse pushes past him. Shouldn't you be mopping something? The words sting, but the truth stings harder. None of these people know that Elijah King once graduated summa cum laude from Howard University College of Medicine. None know he completed residencies and fellowships, or that he once diagnosed complex pediatric cases with precision these specialists could only dream of. They see a janitor, not a physician, not a diagnostician, not a man who could save Luca's life. Hours pass. Luca's fever burns through him, spiking and crashing. His heart strains. Machines beep warnings. Vince's pacing becomes frantic. You said you were the best. He snarls at Thorne. My kid is dying. Do something. We're doing everything possible. Thorne replies, but the fear his voice betrays him. Vince steps closer, voice lowering to something far more dangerous. In my world, failure has consequences. Elijah hears it all from the hallway. His chest tightens. He shouldn't get involved. He shouldn't speak. He shouldn't risk the humiliation again. But then he sees Luca through the glass, the child's tiny hand limp in his father's, the machine surrounding him like metal vultures, the fever glowing under his skin, the clock ticking toward irreversible heart damage. And Elijah knows. He knows. He knows exactly what is killing the boy. He whispers the words he's been holding in for hours. Incomplete Kawasaki disease. But to everyone else, he's just a janitor in the hallway. Hour 10 arrives. More specialists. More opinions. More confusion. Still no diagnosis. Still no cure. Still no hope. Elijah's cleaning cart squeaks as he pushes it away from the ICU door. His chest aches with helplessness. He wants to walk in, to tell them everything, to save the boy. But who would listen? Who would believe him? Who would trust a janitor over 12 world-class specialists? He stops walking. His knuckles whiten on the cart's handle. His breath shakes. And in that moment, he makes a decision that will change everything. He cannot stay silent anymore. He cannot let Luca die. He turns back toward the ICU. He steps forward, and this time, he is done being invisible. Elijah moves through a quiet hallway with purpose, abandoning his cleaning cart entirely. His footsteps echo softly against polished floors as he heads toward the ICU doors. For 15 years, he has swallowed his knowledge, buried his past, kept his brilliance hidden to survive. But tonight, a child is dying, and he cannot let silence kill him. He reaches the ICU window again. Luca lies pale and motionless, tubes running across his small body, like a cruel web. Vince sits beside him, elbows on his knees, fingers tangled in his hair. The man looks like he has aged 10 years in 12 hours. His eyes are red, not from anger now, but from fear. Elijah stands there for a long moment, wrestling with the humiliation he endured earlier, the looks, the laughter, the way they drag him out like an intruder. That shame still burns like a fresh wound. But Luca's shallow breaths burn even hotter. Elijah inhales deeply, picks up the pieces of his dignity, and steps forward again. The ICU doors slide open. Vince lifts his head sharply. "You," he mutters, recognizing the janitor. "What do you want now?" "I don't have time for—" "I want to save your son's life," Elijah says. The words freeze Vince mid-breath. His bloodshot eyes narrow, scanning Elijah's face, searching for a lie, a sign of madness, a reason to dismiss him. But what he sees instead is calm determination, depth, knowledge. "You're the cleaning guy," Vince whispers. "I wasn't always." Elijah keeps his voice steady. "The doctors are missing the diagnosis. They're looking for typical symptoms, and your son has an incomplete presentation." Vince stands up, the full height of a man feared across the city. "Tell me what you think this is." "Right now." "Kawasaki disease," Elijah replies. "An atypical form. The intermittent fever, the rash that appears and fades, the eye redness without pus, the enlarged lymph node on one side. Your son has at least 4 major criteria. They're treating symptoms, not the actual condition." Vince stares at him, stunned. "How the hell do you know that?" Elijah reaches slowly into his jacket and pulls out a worn notebook, full of medical diagrams, highlighted research, and handwritten notes. Vince takes one look at the dense medical terminology and realizes instantly this is not the work of a janitor pretending to be smart. It is the work of a trained physician. "I spent 20 years treating complex pediatric cases," Elijah says. "Before this hospital, before the system decided I didn't belong." Vince's eyes widen. "You're telling me you were a doctor?" "I still am," Elijah answers softly. "A doctor without a license, but never without knowledge." "And you're sure about this?" Vince asks. Elijah steps closer to the glass. "If they keep guessing, your son has maybe 6 hours before the damage to his coronary arteries becomes irreversible." That single sentence hits Vince harder than any threat he has ever delivered. He looks back at Luca, chest rising weakly under the blanket. His fear solidifies into raw desperation. "What do you need from me?" Vince whispers. 5 minutes alone with your son to examine him properly," Elijah says. "If I'm wrong, you never have to see me again. But if I'm right, you must force those specialists to listen." Vince considers it only for half a second before nodding. Room 314. You have 5 minutes. Don't make me regret this. Inside the ICU room, Elijah moves with the grace of someone returning home after decades in exile. He checks pulse points with steady fingertips. He palpates Luca's neck, finding exactly what he expected, the swollen cervical lymph node. He inspects Luca's eyes, confirming bilateral redness without discharge. He lifts the gown slightly, revealing the faint cyclic rash on the child's torso. Everything matches. Every symptom he suspected is there. He reaches into his pocket and produces a stethoscope worn smooth from years of use. He places it gently on Luca's chest, listening. A quiet murmur whispers through the small boy's heart. There it is, Elijah murmurs. The beginning of coronary involvement. Vince watches him with increasing awe. How do you know all this if you were forced out of medicine? Because knowledge doesn't disappear when opportunity does. Elijah answers quietly, and because I never stopped studying. Not for one day. Vince swallows hard. So what now? Now, Elijah says, standing tall, you use your influence to drag every specialist into one room, and I tell them what they refuse to hear. Vince grips his shoulder, desperation turning into determination. If you're right, you save my son. I'll make damn sure they listen. Moments later, the door to conference room B slams open with such force that 12 of the country's most decorated pediatric specialists jump in shock. Vince storms inside with the power of a man who commands entire neighborhoods. And behind him, walking with quiet dignity, is a janitor they humiliated. Dr. Bradley Thorne tries to recover his composure. Mr. Moretti, this is restricted. Meeting's over, Doc. Vince snaps. You're all going to listen to this man. Every head turns toward Elijah. The room shifts, expressions ranging from disbelief to disgust. A janitor interrupting elite medical consultation feels like a violation of their entire hierarchy. Dr. Jennifer Cole whispers, You can't be serious. He's not a janitor, Vince says coldly. He's Dr. Elijah King, and he knows what's wrong with my son. Dr. Thorne laughs, but there's fear behind it. Absolutely not. This man attempted to diagnose a patient earlier. This is dangerous. What's dangerous? Elijah says, stepping forward, is letting a child's coronary arteries dilate until he suffers irreversible damage. The entire room falls silent. Elijah's voice remains calm, confident, precise. Luca has a typical Kawasaki disease. You miss the fever pattern because it's cyclical. You dismissed the rash because it didn't follow textbook timing. You documented every symptom individually, but never connected the constellation. Dr. Thorne's face reddens. This diagnosis requires years of specialized training. Then ask me anything, Elijah says, about pathophysiology, treatment protocol, complications, anything. The room freezes. Then Thorne smirks. Fine. What's the primary cardiac complication? Coronary artery aneurysms, Elijah says instantly, occurring in up to 25% of untreated cases, with risk of sudden cardiac death. The specialists stare. Thorne presses harder. Treatment. For immunoglobulin at 2 grams per kilogram, Elijah replies, followed by high-dose aspirin. And you're running out of time. No one moves. No one speaks. No one laughs now. Dr. Jennifer Cole finally breaks the silence. He's right. The symptoms fit. Dr. Thorne swallows hard. The room begins to shift. And for the first time in decades, Elijah King, janitor, outcast, forgotten physician, feels the weight of his true identity returning. But as the specialists scramble to verify the diagnosis, something else begins ticking beneath the surface. Something far more dangerous than professional egos. The clock is still running. And Luca Moretti's heart has less time than anyone realizes. The room erupts into frantic motion as Elijah's words sink in. Dr. Jennifer Cole scrolls rapidly through the nursing logs, her breath catching when she sees the hidden fever spikes. Dr. Thorne's confident mask cracks, his eyes darting between Elijah and the chart as if searching for an escape. But there is none. Every symptom confirms the truth he refused to see. Vince stands with his arms crossed. daring any of them to challenge the man he brought into the room. Do whatever he says, he growls. You had 12 hours and got nowhere. He had 5 minutes and figured it out. Dr. Thorne's jaw tightens. Even if his observations are accurate, we cannot take treatment advice from someone without. Without what? Elijah steps forward, calm but unyielding. Without a white coat? Without a title? Without the privilege your system denied me. Thorne freezes. Elijah continues, voice steady and surgical. This boy's coronary arteries are already showing early dilation. If we delay for immunoglobulin therapy any longer, you're not risking damage. You're guaranteeing it. Dr. Cole swallows. We need an echocardiogram now. If there's dilation, it confirms the diagnosis. Vince gestures toward the hallway. Then move. The specialists scramble. Elijah follows silently, no longer the invisible man sweeping floors. Nurses glance up, surprised to see him walking at the center of a crowd usually reserved for department chiefs. But none of them stop him now. Inside the dim cardiology lab, the echo monitor glows a cold blue. Dr. Jennifer Cole guides a transducer across Luca's small chest. The machine hums softly. Vince grips his son's hand, knuckles white, breath held hostage by fear. And then Elijah sees it, the slight bulging along the left anterior descending coronary artery. Stop there, he says quietly. The room holds its breath as Dr. Cole freezes the image. That's early dilation, she whispers. Dr. Thorne closes his eyes, the truth crushing him. He's right, he forces out. It's consistent with atypical Kawasaki involvement. The shift is immediate, like a door swinging open that was welded shut moments before. Jordans squeak across the floor as nurses rush out to prepare medications. Someone calls the pharmacy. Someone else pages cardiology. A small army rises into motion, but not Elijah. He stands still, watching Luca, watching the monitors, watching a clock no one else sees ticking in the background. Vince approaches him, voice shaky. Tell me the plan. IVIG at 2 grams per kilogram. Elijah says, then high-dose aspirin. And we need to monitor for reactions during the infusion. Vince nods. Do whatever you need. Minutes later, the ICU transforms into a battlefield of precise medicine. Nurses hang the IVIG bag. Dr. Cole verifies dosage. Dr. Thorne hovers, humbled into silence as the janitor turned unofficial consultant stands at the head of the bed. Elijah watches every drip, every beeping rhythm, every subtle change in Luca's vitals. He's done this for decades, just never here, never with permission. Vince stands beside him. How many kids have you treated with this before? 23 with this exact presentation. Elijah says softly, not one of them died. Vince stares at him long and hard, and for the first time since his son fell ill, hope flickers in his eyes. 30 minutes into the infusion, a sharp alarm pierces the quiet. Luca's heart rate spikes again, 150, then 160. The monitors flash red warnings. Dr. Cole gasps. Possible infusion reaction. Stop the IVIG. Elijah commands instantly. The nurses act without hesitation. Even Thorne steps aside, letting Elijah lead. Vince grabs Elijah's sleeve. Is he dying? No, Elijah says firmly. But this tells me he's one of the rare cases that rejects first-line therapy. Then what do we do? Vince's voice breaks. Elijah takes a breath. This is the moment, the one that ends careers if wrong, and saves lives if right. We use methylprednisolone, a high-dose steroid protocol used internationally for resistant cases. It can reverse the inflammation before it destroys his arteries. Dr. Thorne blinks. That treatment isn't standard here. It's the treatment that will save him, Elijah replies. Vince looks between them. Do it. The order is given. The steroid infusion begins. Elijah places a steady hand on Luca's arm, whispering reassurance the boy can't yet hear. But something shifts, something subtle, something powerful. Elijah is no longer invisible. Every specialist in the room is looking to him for direction. Hours pass. Tension thickens. Luca's body fights wave after wave of inflammatory response. His temperature spikes. His blood pressure dips. Alarm scream warnings every few minutes. At one point, Vince slumps against the wall, head in his hands. I can't lose him, Elijah. I can't. Elijah kneels beside him. You won't. His body is fighting. And I'm not leaving him. Not until he's safe. Vince nods, swallowing hard. But just as the room begins to settle, Luca's breathing shifts, shallow, uneven, labored. His chest rises too fast, too fragile. Dr. Cole's eyes widen. Elijah, his blood pressure is dropping. The monitors confirm it, numbers falling. Vitals destabilizing. A dangerous downward slide. Vince lunges forward. What's happening now? His body is entering distributive shock. Elijah says, voice calm but eyes sharp. We need vasopressors. Dopamine first. Prepare a drip. The team jumps into action. Every second stretches. Machines scream warnings. Nurses race across the room. And then something happens that no one expects. Dr. Bradley Thorne turns to Elijah, not with arrogance, not with contempt, but with genuine deference. What do you need me to do? He asks. Elijah looks at him. A long, heavy look. A look layered with years of prejudice, humiliation, blocked opportunities. But also the urgent truth that right now, all that matters is saving a child. Help me save him. Elijah says. Together, they move. A synergy of two doctors, one recognized by the system, one erased by it, working side by side. The dopamine infusion starts. Luca's vitals tremble, drop, rise again, stabilize for moments, then falter again. Elijah never blinks, never steps back. He monitors each wave of change with the instinct of someone who lived medicine, breathed medicine, worshiped medicine, long before he was condemned to push a mop. Hours pass. Exhaustion settles in every corner of the ICU. Vince refuses to leave his son's bedside. Elijah refuses to sit. The team moves with quiet, reverent caution. And then, so small no one notices at first, Luca exhales slowly. A soft, steady breath. The rise and fall of his chest evens out. His monitor shows faint improvement. Tiny, fragile victory. Elijah, Dr. Cole whispers, hand over her mouth. His temperature, it's dropping. Vince leans close. Is that good? Tell me that's good. It's very good, Elijah says. And yet, as relief washes through the room, Elijah's eyes shift toward the monitor once more. Because not everything is improving. Something else, quiet, hidden, dangerous, is beginning to change in Luca's labor heartbeat. And Elijah sees it first. Something no one is prepared for. Elijah leans closer to the heart monitor, his expression tightening. Luca's temperature is falling, but the next rhythm on the EKG shifts too abruptly to be a normal fluctuation, a slight irregularity, a stutter in the electrical pattern, a warning only someone with decades of experience would notice. Dr. Jennifer Cole turns toward him. What is it? His vitals are stabilizing, aren't they? Look at the ST segments. Elijah murmurs. There's a subtle depression forming. His coronary arteries are still inflamed. The steroids bought us time, but the underlying vasculitis isn't done. Vince stiffens, eyes snapping from the monitor to Elijah. You're saying he's still in danger? Not immediate danger, Elijah says, but the inflammation is unpredictable. We need an echo to check for progression. Dr. Cole already knows he's right. I'll prep the lab. Minutes later, they wheel Luca back down the dim hallway. Vince walks beside the bed, one hand gripping the metal rail, the other resting on his son's limp fingers. His face is carved with exhaustion but sharpened by love, defiance, and fear. Elijah walks on the other side of the bed, step for step with Vince. In the echo lab, the monitor glows to life. As the transducer glides across Luca's chest, the ultrasound image flickers. What am I looking at? Vince whispers. Elijah steps forward. He sees it instantly. The dilation hasn't worsened, but it hasn't resolved. The early-stage aneurysm is still present, a silent threat waiting to either improve or explode into catastrophe. Dr. Cole touches the screen. Still enlarged. Mild but unchanged. We stay the course. Elijah says, He needs continued high-dose steroids. But more importantly, he needs cardiac monitoring every 30 minutes. No gaps. Dr. Bradley Thorne, silent until now, clears his throat. His arrogance is gone. In its place is something new, something unfamiliar on his face. Respect. Dr. King, Thorne says, your insight saved this child's life. And if you're willing, I'd like you to guide the next phase with us. The room freezes. Even Dr. Cole looks stunned. Thorne, the man who dismissed Elijah with contempt, is now offering collaboration. But Elijah answers without hesitation. This isn't about me. It's about Luca. So yes, I'll help. They return to the ICU. Nurses scramble. Adjustments are made. Protocols shift. Elijah issues instructions with calm authority, and nobody questions him now. Not anymore. By hour 14, Luca's fever has broken completely. His color returns in faint shades. His fingers curl slightly around Vince's hand. His breathing deepens, soft but strong. He's fighting, Elijah whispers. Vince squeezes Elijah's shoulder. Because you fought for him. But the quiet moment doesn't last. A nurse rushes in with new lab results. His inflammatory markers, they're still high. Elijah reads the numbers. CRP is elevated. ESR2, this is expected, but we need to make sure it doesn't trigger new coronary changes. Dr. Cole looks around the room. We need another consultation. Dr. Walsh from cardiology should... No, Vince interrupts sharply. He's the one who figured everything out. He leads. Every eye turns to Elijah. He doesn't flinch. He takes Luca's chart, studies the numbers again, and begins outlining the next steps. He speaks with the confidence of a man who used command medical teams. Before the world decided he didn't look the part. Double the monitoring frequency. Keep the steroid dosage steady. And someone check for abdominal pain. Kawasaki can trigger complications beyond the heart. A nurse bends over Luca gently. He just tense when I touch his stomach. Elijah's voice sharpens. That's warning of possible vasculitis in the abdominal vessels. Prepare for ultrasound. The specialists spring into motion. As they examine Luca again, Vince's voice cracks. Elijah, does this ever stop? Does it ever get easier? Elijah looks at him with a depth that only comes from decades of heartbreak. Medicine isn't about easy. It's about persistence. And Luca is responding. That's all that matters. Hours pass. The worst storms in Luca's body begin to settle. His vitals slowly normalize. The irregular rhythm smooths out again. His blood pressure stabilizes. The abdominal ultrasound shows no new complications. Then something miraculous happens. Luca's eyelids flutter. Vince freezes. Elijah steps closer. Luca opens his eyes slowly, blinking at the dim lights. Papa, he whispers, voice thin but alive. Vince breaks. Tears fall freely as he leans over the bed. I'm here, Luca. I'm right here. Luca's gaze drifts toward Elijah. Who is he? Elijah smiles warm and gentle. Someone who believes every child deserves a fighting chance. Luca's small hand lifts weakly, reaching toward him. Elijah takes it softly, marveling at the simple miracle of life returning. But just as relief washes over them, a nurse rushes in, breathless. Dr. King, lab just called. They found a new anomaly in Luca's blood work. Something we didn't expect. Elijah's smile fades. He releases Luca's hand, straightens his posture, and takes the chart from the nurse. He scans the numbers, his face tightening with concern. Whatever it is, it's not routine. And it's not small. Dr. Cole reads over his shoulder, her eyes widening. Vince steps forward immediately. What does that mean? What now? Elijah closes the file slowly, the weight of findings settling into his bones. It means, he says quietly, we're not out of danger yet. Vince's breath stutters. Tell me plainly, what are we facing? Elijah lifts his eyes. Determined. Steady. We've beaten the first wave. But Luca's body just reveals something new. Something that changes the entire course of his recovery. Vince grips the railing, voice shaking. Elijah, what are you telling me? Elijah looks him straight in the eyes. I'm telling you, the next 24 hours will decide everything. Elijah holds a chart tightly as the ICU quiet around him. Machines hum. Lucas sleeps, steady but fragile. Vince stands at the foot of the bed, waiting, afraid of the answer he knows is coming. Elijah, Vince whispers. Tell me. Elijah gently closes the chart. Lucas' inflammatory markers should be falling now, but something in his labs just spiked instead. Dr. Jennifer Cole swallows hard. His cardiac enzymes, they're rising. Vince stiffens. His what? Elijah turns to him. It means the inflammation may still be attacking his heart. The room stills. Nurses pause. Vince looks at Luca, chest rising slowly, unaware that a silent war is still happening inside him. What do we do? Vince demands. We run a full cardiac panel. Elijah says, already moving, and we increase the frequency of echo monitoring. His coronary arteries may be reacting again. Dr. Cole hands him a new printout. CRP, ESR, and troponin all rising. It's not normal. Elijah nods. This is a secondary inflammatory surge. Rare, but not unheard of in incomplete Kawasaki cases. Vince shakes his head, voice breaking. How many damn waves does this disease have? As many as it needs, Elijah answers softly, before we shut it down completely. They move Luca back to the echo lab. Every step feels like walking deeper into a storm they thought had passed. Vince grips the bed rail, like a lifeline. Elijah walks beside him with calm precision. Never hurried, never panicked, but fiercely alert. Inside the dim room, Dr. Cole glides a transducer across Luca's chest. The grainy image flickers to life. Please, Vince whispers, eyes locked on the screen. Please tell me it's stable. Elijah leans closer. There, a tiny flicker, a narrowing, a subtle change in vessel walls. His heart drops. Dr. Cole sees it too. There's new inflammation along the right coronary artery. Vince grips the wall. Is it bad? It's not good, Elijah says carefully, but it's not irreversible. Not yet. Vince looks at him with pure desperation. Just tell me what keeps him alive. Elijah turns to the team. We're escalating treatment. Luca needs an additional steroid protocol, and we prepare for a possible immunomodulatory infusion if this continues. Dr. Bradley Thorne nods quickly. Agreed. I'll page pharmacy. Elijah raises an eyebrow. Thorne meets his gaze. Just tell me how much we need, Dr. King. Thorne says, I'll handle the rest. The words land differently this time. Not forced, not begrudging, but sincere. Back in the ICU, the air thickens with urgency. Nurses prepare 4 lines and updated medication drips. Alarms punctuate the tension as Luca's blood pressure dips and rises unpredictably. Elijah stands at his bedside, monitoring every number with a quiet intensity. Vince watches him more than the monitors now. Why are you really doing this? Vince asks quietly. You don't know us. You don't owe us anything. Elijah keeps his eyes on the monitor. Because I've seen too many children suffer from this disease. And because I know what it feels like to be dismissed, to be unseen, to be told you're less than you are. Vince breathes out slowly. They did that to you? For decades, Elijah says. But pain doesn't excuse inaction. If I can save your boy, then the rest of my life still meant something. Vince looks at him with an expression Elijah never expected. A rare mix of gratitude and respect. I owe you more than I can ever pay. You owe me nothing, Elijah replies softly. Just be here for him. Suddenly the heart monitor spikes. 150, 160. Climbing. Dr. Cole rushes in. He's tachycardic again. Elijah's voice cuts through the chaos. Increase the dopamine drip. Check for arrhythmias. The nurses scramble. The alarms scream. Luca's tiny chest rises too fast. Too shallow. Vince is frozen. Elijah. I'm here. Elijah says. Stay close. He can hear you. Vince reaches for his son's hand. Voice trembling. Luca, Papa's here. Don't give up. Fight, kid. Fight. Elijah checks Luca's airway, his breathing pattern, his blood pressure, then the infusion rate. He spots the problem instantly. His body is reacting to the second steroid surge. Elijah says, "It's expected, but intense." He's not crashing, he's fighting. Dr. Cole nods quickly. He's right. The numbers are fluctuating, not failing. Elijah looks at Vince. "Stay with him. Your voice ground him." Vince leans close, whispering into Luca's ear. "Your mother loved you. She want you to fight. We're right here, buddy." Luca's breathing stutters, and then slowly steadies. The heart rate dips gradually. 150, 145, 140. Elijah exhales. Good. He's stabilizing. He's responding. Dr. Thorne checks the drip. "Elijah, what now?" "We monitor for the next wave," he says. "Kawasaki can change rapidly. We don't assume anything. We observe. We prepare." Hours pass. The storm inside Luca's body slowly calms. His vitals settle into a stable pattern. His temperature remains normal. His breathing deepens. The inflammatory chaos begins to retreat. Vince sits by the bed, exhausted, fingers still wrapped around his son's hand. Is he safe now? Not safe, Elijah says, but safer. Vince nods slowly, absorbing the words like a man learning to breathe again. For the first time in hours, there's quiet. Not peace, not yet, but quiet. Then a nurse rushes in with new labs. His markers are dropping. CRP is down. ES are decreasing. Elijah scans the numbers, his face softening. It's working. Vince nearly collapses with relief. Thank God. But Elijah isn't done. Not yet. "We need one more echo," he says. If the coronary dilation has stabilized, he's past the greatest danger. They will Luca back into the lab one last time. Dr. Cole begins the scan. Vince's hand shakes on the railing. Elijah watches the screen, heart pounding in silent prayer. The vessel image forms. And then Dr. Cole gasps. No progression. None. Elijah nods slowly, eyes glistening. It's stabilizing. The inflammation is reversing. Vince chokes out a breath. So he's going to live? Elijah places a gentle hand on his shoulder. Yes, Luca is going to live. The weight of the words crushes Vince. He covers his face, shoulders trembling. Not from fear now, but freedom from it. They return to the ICU, where nurses smile with cautious joy. Luca sleeps peacefully, no longer fighting invisible flames inside his body. But as Elijah stands over him, exhausted but steady, Dr. Thorne approaches quietly. "Dr. King," Thorne says, "there's something you should know." Elijah turns to him. "The board wants to speak with you about a permanent position." Elijah blinks. The words hit him in a place he buried years ago. Vince steps in behind Thorne. "And they'll listen, because I'm going to make sure they do." Elijah looks between them, between the man whose child he saved and the man who once dismissed him. But before he can speak, a voice cuts through the quiet. A small, soft, sleepy voice. "Papa?" Luca is waking up. Vince rushes to him, tears falling freely. "I'm here, Luca. I'm here." Luca smiles faintly. "Did I win?" Vince laughs through tears. "Yeah, kid, you won." Elijah steps closer. Luca blinks up at him. "You're the doctor," Luca whispers. Elijah smiles, emotion tightening his chest. "Something like that," he says. But as the moment softens, a nurse enters with a folder, this time addressed to Elijah himself. "Elijah, the hospital administration needs to see you. Immediately." Elijah's breath stills, because whatever waits behind those doors will change his entire life forever. Elijah follows the nurse down the quiet hallway, unsure of what waits for him. He's walked these same floors for 15 years, pushing a cleaning cart, invisible to everyone. But tonight, every step feels different. He is no longer unseen, no longer dismissed, no longer the ghost of a man in the world, pushed into the shadows. The nurse stops at a door labeled Administration Conference Suite. She gives him a small, encouraging nod. Elijah inhales slowly, steadies himself, and steps inside. The room falls silent. Around a polished table sit the hospital's highest-ranking administrators, department heads, board members, people who had never once spoken to him in all his years working here. But now they stand. Dr. Jennifer Cole gives him a respectful nod. Dr. Bradley Thorne looks humbled, almost reverent. Even the chief medical officer rises from his seat. Mr. King, the CMO begins. Elijah raises a gentle hand. Please, call me Elijah. The CMO nods. Elijah, first, we owe you an apology. A deep one, for years of disrespect, for oversight, for failing to recognize the expertise standing right in front of us. Elijah lowers his gaze, unsure how to respond. Dr. Thorne steps forward. I judge you based on your uniform instead of your mind. That mistake almost cost a child his life, and I will live with that for the rest of my career. I am truly sorry. Elijah meets his eyes. Thorne's humility is real. The apology is real. And Elijah, carrying decades of pain, chooses not to harden his heart. I accept your apology, Elijah says softly. The room exhales. The CMO continues. Your diagnostic accuracy, your medical reasoning, your crisis leadership, it surpasses the standard of any specialist here. We reviewed your published research. We confirmed your prior credentials. Everything aligns. A board member folds her hands. We would like to formally reinstate your medical status. Elijah freezes. Reinstate his status? After decades? After all the rejection? After all the humiliation? Dr. Cole smiles warmly. We want you back. Not as janitorial staff, but as a senior clinical consultant in complex diagnostics. A hybrid role, one that honors your expertise while allowing you to choose the pace that suits you. The proposal hits Elijah like a tidal wave. His knees weaken. For a moment, he can't breathe. He flashes back. Years of closed doors, denied applications, coded rejections about cultural fit, the sting of racism in every sentence. He remembers hiding his stethoscope, studying in break rooms, diagnosing cases only in his mind because no one wanted to hear him. Now the world finally sees him. Elijah, the CMO says, voice softening, your mind is too valuable to continue unseen. We want to fix that, starting today. Tears burn behind Elijah's eyes, but he steadies his voice. I accept. The room breaks into relieved applause. Dr. Thorne steps forward to shake his hand. It isn't hollow. It isn't performative. It's a handshake of a man who finally understands his own blind spots. But Elijah gently lifts his other hand. On one condition. Everyone stills. I want to continue my custodial work too. They blink confused. Elijah explains, this hospital needs healing in multiple forms. Some healing happens with medicine. Some happens with presence. Some happens by being the familiar face in the hallway. I want to serve in both capacities. Slowly, the CMO nods. Then we will honor your request. Elijah smiles. Thank you. When he leaves the conference room, the weight in his chest feels lighter than it has in decades. He walks back toward the ICU, and when he enters, the room transforms. Nurses straighten and greet him respectfully. Residents step aside to let him pass. Even Dr. Thorne moves to the edge of the room, so Elijah can stand near Luca's bed. Vince rises instantly. What did they say? Are they giving you hell? Elijah shakes his head with a soft smile. They reinstated my license. Vince stares. You're a doctor again? Elijah chuckles. I never stopped being one. Vince grabs him and pulls him into a tight embrace. The kind men like him rarely give. You deserve this more than anyone. Luca stirs. His eyes flutter open. He looks up at Elijah with a small grin. Hi, doctor. It hits Elijah so hard he almost breaks. The word he thought he'd never hear again. The title he earned but was stripped of. The identity he carried in silence. He kneels beside the bed. How are you feeling, Luca? Tired, the boy whispers. But better. You are better. Elijah says, and you're going to keep getting better. Vince wipes his eyes discreetly. You saved him, Elijah. Nothing I say will ever be enough. I didn't save him alone. Elijah says, looking around the room. Everyone here played a part. Dr. Cole smiles through weary eyes. We just followed your lead. Hours later, Luca's condition stabilizes entirely. His fever is gone. His heart rhythm holds strong. The inflammation recedes. Every echo scan confirms what Elijah knew in his core. The boy is out of danger. Daylight breaks over Manhattan as they prepare Luca for step-down care. Vince stands at the window, watching the sunrise, his arm around Elijah. How do I repay you? Vince asks quietly. Money? Influence? A whole floor named after you. Elijah shakes his head with a small smile. Just be the father he needs. That's all the thanks I want. Vince nods. Then after a long silence, he speaks with uncharacteristic vulnerability. You know, when people look at me, they only see what I've done. They never see the father I'm trying to be. Elijah places a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Then show him. Later that afternoon, the hospital prepares Luca for discharge. Nurses gather. Residents whisper about the janitor who saved a life. Even Dr. Thorne looks proud as he watches Elijah fit a stethoscope around his neck. Not hidden this time, but displayed openly. Luca waves from his wheelchair. Will you be here when I come back? Elijah smiles warmly. I'll be here. Vince looks back one last time. You didn't just save my son. You saved me too. Elijah watches him go, heart full. But just as peace begins to settle, a hospital administrator rushes in, holding a folder addressed to him. Elijah, there's national media requesting interviews, and several medical universities want you to lecture. Elijah's breath catches. His past denied him a voice. His present is now demanding one. He takes the folder gently, eyes distant with possibility, because the boy he saved isn't the only one whose life is about to change. Elijah King's second chance has just begun. 3 days after Luca Moretti walked out of Mount Sinai with a bright smile and a healthy heart, the hospital feels different. Word of what happened spreads through every hallway, every staff room, every department. People whisper when Elijah King walks by, but not with mockery now, with awe, with respect, with something the hospital once denied him completely. Recognition. He still wears his custodial uniform, still signs in for his shift, still pushes his cleaning cart down the gleaming hallways. But now, hanging from his neck, resting proudly over his chest, is a stethoscope he refused to hide any longer. Nurses stop him with questions. Residents greet him like a mentor. Even seasoned attending physicians step aside when he passes, acknowledging something the entire hospital is still adjusting to. The janitor everyone overlooked is one of the brightest medical minds they've ever encountered. On Luca's follow-up day, the boy bursts into the pediatric cardiology clinic with fresh energy, running up to Elijah and hugging him tightly. Dr. King, look, I can breathe good now. Elijah laughs, lifting him up gently. You're doing amazing, Luca. He checks the follow-up echo himself. Perfect rhythm, perfect vessels, not a trace of lingering inflammation. Luca is entirely healed. Dr. Jennifer Cole smiles as she looks at the screen. He's a normal kid again. No restrictions, no complications. Vince stands behind her, hands in his pockets, expressions softer than anyone in the hospital has ever seen on the infamous Moretti. You're coming to his birthday next month, he tells Elijah. No excuses. Elijah grins. I wouldn't miss it. That same week, the administration holds a large meeting in the hospital auditorium. Hundreds of employees fill the seats. Nurses, residents, custodians, security staff, cafeteria workers, all curious about the sudden announcement. When Elijah walks onto the stage beside the chief medical officer, the entire room rises. Not a polite applause, an eruption. A standing ovation for a man who spent 15 years pushing a mop while holding the knowledge to save lives. The CMO steps to the microphone. Today, we correct an injustice. Today, we honor the brilliance we overlooked. Today, we welcome Dr. Elijah King as Mount Sinai's senior clinical consultant for complex diagnostics. Applause shakes the walls. Elijah steps forward, humbled by a moment he once believed would never come back to him. I thank you, he begins softly, not for giving me a new chance, but for finally seeing the truth of who I've always been. That night, social media explodes with the news. Janitor turned hero doctor saves child's life. National networks request interviews. Medical associations reach out. Universities ask him to lecture. His quiet, hidden brilliance is no longer hidden. The world finally sees what he carried alone for decades. But Elijah still returns to the custodial staff room at the end of each shift. His fellow workers greet him differently now. Proud, emotional, inspired. One of them, a security guard named Ramon, steps forward and clears his throat nervously. Elijah, I used to be an EMT back home, but my license didn't transfer, so I ended up here. He hesitates. Do you think they let someone like me come back, too? Elijah places a hand on his shoulder. Ramon, there's no such thing as someone like you. There's only talent waiting to be recognized. Word spreads. 3 more custodial workers reveal past medical training. One cafeteria worker confesses she was a nurse in another country. The hospital begins reviewing credentials for reinstatement programs. Elijah helps every single one of them. And soon, something extraordinary happens. Other hospitals take notice. Elijah becomes a national voice for hidden professionals trapped in low-visibility jobs due to racism, bureaucracy, and immigration barriers. Conferences invite him to speak. Panels seek his insight. His message echoes across the country. Brilliance does not disappear because society refuses to see it. Months later, Elijah returns home from a long shift, a hybrid of diagnostic consulting and custodial work. He stands in front of his small mirror, adjusting his stethoscope. The same hands that were once forced to scrub floors now guide physicians. The same mind dismissed by gatekeepers now shapes medical policy. The same heart that endured years of quiet injustice now fuels change in countless lives. His reflection stares back, weathered, wise, unbroken. He whispers softly, "You finally made it." But then, almost as if answering himself, he adds, "No, you were always here. They just couldn't see you." The next morning, Elijah walks through the lobby and patients, visitors, and staff alike greet him as Dr. King. His uniform doesn't matter anymore. His skin color doesn't limit him. His position doesn't define him. The world has shifted, and children like Luca will live because truth finally rose through the cracks of a broken system. As he passes a pediatric wing, he hears a familiar voice. Dr. King. Luca waves from the hallway, holding a drawing. Stick figures a janitor with a mop in one hand and a stethoscope in the other. Above it, in shaky kid handwriting, "My hero." Elijah laughs, tears forming in his eyes as he kneels. "Thank you, Luca. That means more than you know." And in that tender moment, in a quiet hospital hallway, he realizes something powerful. All the rejection, the hurt, the humiliation, it did not break him. It prepared him. It shaped him into the man who would save a life when no one else could. Because healing isn't just medicine. Healing is justice. Healing is being seen. Healing is finally being allowed to stand in the light. And now, with a boy's drawing in one hand and a full future ahead of him, Elijah walks forward with the dignity he deserved all along. Proof that brilliance, compassion, and truth cannot be buried forever. And the world will never again mistake him for anything less than the doctor he always was. If this story moved you, pause for a moment and let it settle. Stories like Elijah King's remind us that brilliance often hides in unexpected places, and that every life can change when someone dares to speak, dare to see, and dare to stand for what's right. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuning in from. If you enjoyed today's story, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful cinematic tale from Black Justice Tales. Here's a question for you. If you met someone like Elijah King in real life, someone overlooked, underestimated, dismissed, would you recognize their brilliance, or would you walk past it? Let us know your thoughts below. And remember, greatness doesn't hide. Sometimes it just waits for someone to see it.